truth may win you respect for a moment, but it will cost you power forever. In this video, we expose why the so-called truth teller is not celebrated, but destroyed, and why Machiavelli warned against the Naïve belief that honesty is a virtue in the game of power. I have watched men fall not because they lacked courage, but because they lacked calculation. They believed truth would shield them, when in fact it left them naked before envy, hatred, and betrayal. A ruined truth teller is nothing more than a lesson for the cunning that honesty, spoken without strategy, is a weapon turned against its wielder. Tonight, we descend into the confessions of one such figure, broken by his own sincerity, and we will extract Machiavelli's warning, sharpened by centuries of blood, ambition, and betrayal. The truth. The very word drips with a kind of sacredness. We are taught from childhood that truth is noble, that honesty elevates a man above deceit. But let me ask you, who has ruled the world more effectively? The one who told the truth without restraint, or the one who mastered silence, disguise, and manipulation? History is unkind to the honest man. It buries him quickly, and then praises his memory only when he is no longer a threat. Consider Socrates, a philosopher who insisted on speaking what he believed to be true. Athens crowned him not with laurel but with poison. Why? Because truth unmasks illusions that hold societies together. Expose those illusions, and you do not gain followers, you gain enemies. And so, the truth teller discovers a cruel paradox. The very clarity he offers makes him dangerous to those who profit from shadows. Now ask yourself, how often have you seen this in your own life? The employee who speaks honestly to a superior, thinking candor will be rewarded. Instead, he is quietly sidelined, branded as disloyal, watched more closely than the sycophant who flatters, the friend who tells you a brutal fact you did not want to hear. Do you thank him? Or do you secretly resent the wound, even if the words were accurate? You see, the truth exposes. And exposure is vulnerability. In politics, in courtrooms, in boardrooms, exposure is death. A ruler, if he wishes to survive, must understand this dual edge. A truth, when unrestrained, slices through illusion, but it also slices through one's own armor. The wound is self-inflicted. Enemies need not lift a hand. You have already disarmed yourself. Think of the medieval court. Power belonged not to the blunt soldier, but to the courtier who could weave words like a veil. Those who spoke truths without measure found themselves exiled, disgraced, or quietly executed. Meanwhile, those who knew how to shade truth, to dress it in pleasing garments, climbed higher, smiled longer, and lived richer. Is this hypocrisy? Or is it simply the natural law of human affairs? Psychology teaches us that people cling to illusions because illusions soothe. The brain craves coherence, not accuracy. We prefer the comforting lie that preserves dignity over the sharp truth that dismantles it. This is why blunt honesty feels like an assault. It tears down the stories people live by. The truth teller does not only reveal facts, he strips people naked. And few forgive such humiliation. So here is the danger when you tell the truth without calculation. You imagine yourself a warrior wielding a shining sword. But you are not cutting down enemies. You are cutting down your own defenses. The applause you hope for will never come. Instead, you will stand alone, your honesty admired only after your ruin. Now, some of you may protest. Should I then live as a liar? No, that is not the counsel here. The counsel is this: truth must be wielded like a dagger, not a banner, hidden until the right moment, aimed precisely, used sparingly. For the man who waves truth openly in every direction soon finds himself surrounded, pierced by the very clarity he claimed to honor. Even scripture records the danger. Joseph revealed his dreams, his truth, to his brothers. What was his reward? Not admiration, but a pit, chains, and slavery. His honesty stirred envy, and envy is deadlier than any weapon. Yet when Joseph learned discretion, when he spoke with timing and strategy, he rose to power in Egypt. It was not truth alone that elevated him, but the art of guiding when and how to reveal it. And here lies the true lesson: truth is not a virtue in itself. It is a tool. And like any tool, it can build or destroy, depending on the hands that hold it. Ask yourself, When you last spoke truth, did it strengthen your position or weaken it? Did it silence your rivals or arm them with resentment? Did it make you appear noble or nava? These are not small questions. They determine whether your honesty becomes a weapon or your downfall. Remember, the double edge always cuts. The only question is, who bleeds first? And so we turn to the next truth of power, darker still. If honesty exposes, then what protects? The answer lies not in candor, but in the mastery of appearances. Power does not belong to reality. It belongs to perception. You may imagine the truth is enough. That merit, skill, or evidence will elevate you. But ask yourself who decides your worth. Is it you, or is it the eyes that watch you? History whispers the answer. Caesar crossed the Rubicon not because his armies were larger than Rome's, but because the perception of his daring made resistance collapse. Napoleon crowned himself emperor not because he was divinely chosen, but because the sight of him placing the crown on his own head burned into the minds of millions as a symbol of destiny. Reality bent before image. This is the tyranny of perception. It rules not by law or by force, but by illusion. And you, whether you admit it or not, live beneath it. Think about your daily life. Do people respect the colleague who works hardest? Or the one who appears busiest, who speaks with confidence, who dresses as though authority already belongs to him? Do leaders rise because they are virtuous, or because they perform virtue in public while committing ruthlessness in private? You know the answer. And yet, you resist it. Because to accept that perception rules over truth is to admit that fairness, justice, and merit are illusions themselves. Comforting illusions, but illusions all the same. Now consider this: people do not see you as you are. They see you as you appear to be. Their minds construct stories out of fragments. Your tone, your posture, your timing, your clothing, your reputation. And once those stories are formed, they are nearly impossible to shatter with facts. Even if you prove them wrong, perception lingers. This is why rulers have always staged themselves like actors. The throne is not merely wood and gold. It is theater. The crown is not metal. It is performance. The people must believe, because belief holds armies together longer than pay. Ask yourself, when you last entered a room, did you control the image you projected? Or did you leave your reputation to chance, allowing others to weave their own stories about you? If you did the latter, you surrendered power without even knowing it. Consider the courtroom. A lawyer may have weak evidence but command victory through tone, pacing, and rhetorical flourish. Meanwhile, a truth teller with perfect facts may lose simply because his delivery lacked conviction. Justice bows not to truth, but to perception. Psychologists call this the halo effect. One shining quality blinds us to all flaws. A man who speaks with authority is assumed to be competent. A woman who dresses with elegance is believed to be intelligent. These assumptions, though false, govern decisions that shape destinies. You think you are free of such illusions? Test yourself. Would you trust the surgeon in ragged clothes? Would you follow the general who stutters? Would you invest in the entrepreneur who cannot maintain eye contact? Truth may lie within them, but perception will stop you at the gate. The wise know this. They do not protest it. They weaponize it. Look again to the past. During the Renaissance, princes employed artists to paint them as gods, not men. They held audiences in chambers of marble and gold so that visitors would leave awestruck, their minds unable to separate wealth from power, power from legitimacy. Did the marble make them stronger? No. But it made them appear invincible, and appearance is often indistinguishable from reality in the minds of the masses. This is why, when truth and perception collide, perception wins. It is swifter, it spreads faster than any fact, a rumor, a whisper, an image. These race ahead of truth and lock themselves in memory before evidence even arrives. You may despise this. You may long for a world where reality triumphs. But despising the laws of power does not free you from them. It only makes you their victim. The path forward is not to worship perception blindly, but to master it. You must learn when to feed illusions, when to cloak weaknesses, when to craft an image stronger than your reality. Because if you do not, someone else will. and their illusion will enslave you. And so I ask, when the crowd looks at you, do they see a leader or a shadow? Do they see strength or doubt? The answer is not in truth, but in perception. For in this world, those who control the mirror control the man who gazes into it. But if perception rules, what then becomes of the man who dares to challenge it? He discovers the next cruel truth. Society does not forgive the one who strips away illusions. The world does not reward purity, it punishes it. Naïve truth tellers believe their honesty makes them virtuous. But what does virtue buy in the marketplace of power? At best, pity. At worst, destruction. Consider the fate of Girolamo Savonarola, the fiery Dominican preacher of Florence. He thundered against corruption, wealth, and vice, believing his holy truth would cleanse the city. For a brief moment, the crowds adored him. They burned their luxuries in the bonfire of the vanities. But admiration fades when truth cuts too deep. The same citizens who once chanted his name turned on him, dragged him through the streets, and burned him at the stake. He spoke truth. But truth, delivered without calculation, cost him everything. Ask yourself, why does this pattern repeat? Why do those who speak unvarnished truths become martyrs, not rulers? The answer lies in human nature. Men are not guided by reason but by desire, pride, and fear. Expose a man's flaws to his face, and he does not thank you for enlightening him. He hates you for humiliating him. Reveal the corruption of a ruler, and you force him to choose between mercy and power. And rulers do not choose mercy when their throne is at stake. Psychology confirms what history has shown. People cling to comforting lies like armor. Disrupt that armor, and they strike back with vengeance. The Naïve truth teller forgets that honesty wounds egos, and egos are more dangerous than swords. Look around you today. How many employees have destroyed themselves by pointing out incompetence in a superior? How many friends have severed ties by telling truths that were not wanted, only resented? Perhaps you too have tasted this bitterness, thinking your honesty noble, only to find yourself abandoned, misunderstood, or quietly excluded. Here lies the punishment. Society smiles on those who flatter illusions. It crucifies those who pierce them. Think of Galileo. He revealed that the earth revolves around the sun. Science crowned him right. The church branded him heretic. Did truth shield him from persecution? No, it chained him, humiliated him, silenced him. Only centuries later was he honored, when the danger of his truth had passed. This is the cruel rhythm of history. The honest are rewarded in memory, but destroyed in life. So what is the lesson for you? Do not confuse honesty with influence. Do not mistake bluntness for bravery. Bravery without strategy is suicide. Ask yourself, when you speak a truth, do you calculate the cost? Do you weigh the ears that hear you, power they hold, the resentments they will carry? Or do you speak like a child, believing honesty alone will protect you? Understand this, words are weapons, but the Naïve man wields them like toys. He stabs blindly, thinking himself righteous, until the world closes in and crushes him. The wise man, by contrast, sheathes his blade until the moment is ripe. He knows that a truth delivered at the wrong time is poison. But a truth, shaped carefully, hidden when needed, revealed with precision, can be the lever that topples kingdoms. This is why naivete is punished. It is not simply that honesty angers people. It is that the Naïve fail to see honesty as strategy. They believe it is virtue in itself. And in this belief, they walk willingly into ruin. Think of the whistleblower who reveals corruption without building alliances first. He imagines he will be hailed as a savior. Instead, he is fired, slandered, exiled. Meanwhile, the very corruption he sought to expose survives, cloaked in stronger defenses. His truth becomes a warning to others, not a weapon of change, but a reminder of what happens when one forgets the rules of power. So, let me ask you directly, would you rather be remembered as the noble fool who spoke too soon, or the cunning strategist who spoke only when the time to strike was certain? Naïveté is not innocence. It is weakness, and weakness is punished not with compassion, but with exploitation. The world does not destroy the truth teller because it fears truth. It destroys him because he exposes it without armor, without allies, without calculation. And in a game where perception and power are everything, such nakedness is fatal. Remember this: to speak truth is dangerous. To speak it without foresight is suicide. If truth destroys the Naïve, what remains for the cunning? Silence, and the artful use of half-truths. Understand this: silence is not emptiness. It is power. Every pause, every withheld word, every unanswered question builds tension. And tension creates control. Ask yourself, how often do people fear what you do not say more than what you speak? The mind abhors a vacuum. When you remain silent, others rush to fill the void with their own fears, suspicions, or hopes. And in doing so, they reveal more than you ever would. Consider the courtroom again. The witness who stammers through endless details weakens himself. The witness who pauses, who speaks sparingly, who answers only what is asked, he appears composed, mysterious, untouchable. His silence shields him. His brevity builds trust. History, too, proves the value of silence. Think of the Ottomans, who withheld news of succession battles until the throne was secured. Or of the Venetian Republic, where the Council of Ten cloaked its decisions in secrecy. Their silence was not ignorance, it was armor. An empire can survive scandal, but it cannot survive transparency. And yet, silence alone is not enough. The truly cunning learn to craft half-truths, not outright lies. These are easily exposed and easily punished. But half-truths, laced with just enough reality to be believed, slip past suspicion and take root in the mind. Why are half-truths so effective? Because the human brain craves completion. Give someone a fragment, and they will finish the story themselves. And the story they invent, they will defend more fiercely than anything you could impose. Picture the diplomat negotiating with an enemy. He says, "We are open to peace if conditions allow." What does this mean? Nothing concrete. And yet, it plants hope, disarms suspicion, and buys time. The words are true, but incomplete. And it is in that incompleteness that power hides. Even in your daily life, half-truths work their magic. Tell a colleague, "I've heard there may be changes soon." You said nothing definitive. But watch how quickly rumors spread, how fear grips them, how their behavior shifts. You did not lie. You simply allowed their imagination to finish the work. This is the brilliance of half-truths. They force your enemies to deceive themselves, and self-deception is the most effective cage. Now reflect. When was the last time you ruined yourself by saying too much? Perhaps you confessed feelings too quickly, giving away leverage in a relationship. Perhaps you revealed plans before they were secure, allowing rivals to sabotage them. Perhaps you tried to be transparent, thinking it would build trust, only to discover it gave others the very weapons to use against you. Transparency is worshipped by the Naïve, but in power, transparency is suicide. What people call honesty often means surrendering control over perception. What they call clarity often means stripping away mystery, the very essence of authority. The wise know this. They speak only when words will serve, and when words do not serve, they say nothing. Or better yet, they release fragments, whispers, suggestions. Enough to guide the crowd, but never enough to be pinned down. Think again of leaders past. Franklin D. Roosevelt during World War II spoke of hope, strength, and resolve. He revealed nothing of specific strategy, yet the nation followed him as though he had already won. His speeches were not transparent reports. They were carefully crafted half-truths, designed to inspire without exposing weakness. Contrast this with leaders who revealed too much, who gave speeches laden with facts. Their words, dissected and doubted, weakened them. The public does not want the full truth. It wants the story it can believe. And silence, paired with half-truths, writes that story. So let me ask you, do you control the narrative around you, or do you hand it away by speaking too freely? Do you use silence as a weapon, or do you rush to fill every gap with explanations that bleed your strength? Remember this, every word you speak is a coin spent. Spend too freely, and you are bankrupt. Spend sparingly, and your words become priceless. The masses will never understand this law. They chatter endlessly, believing speech makes them visible. But power comes not from being seen, but from being suspected. The shadow commands more awe than the spotlight. And so, the strategist learns to wield silence like a blade and half-truths like poison. He does not fight openly. He lets others choke on their own imagination. But silence and half-truths, though powerful, are not the end. For even the most cunning strategist cannot remain forever hidden. One day, the mask must slip, the illusion must be tested. The question is, when it does, will you stand ruined like the Naïve, a truth teller, or will you master the final weapon, the ability to turn even ruin into advantage? Every downfall carries a lesson. The ruined truth teller does not vanish quietly. He becomes a warning. His ashes feed the soil of power. His mistakes sharpen the weapons of those who survive him. Look at history. The prophets, the philosophers, the whistleblowers, all silenced, mocked, exiled, or executed. And yet, their ruin was not wasted. Each became an example, a reminder of what not to do in the dangerous game of power. Savonarola's pyre in Florence told every prince, never expose corruption without control of the mob. Socrates' cup of hemlock whispered to every student of politics, never wound the pride of the masses unless you are untouchable. Galileo's trial taught every thinker truth must sometimes be veiled in allegory, spoken only to those who will not turn it into a weapon. The ruin of these men was not an accident, it was a pattern, and patterns can be studied, and from patterns, lessons are drawn. So what is the central lesson of the truth teller's ruin? That in the contest between honesty and power, honesty without armor is suicide. Ask yourself, do you admire the ruined man? Yes, but do you follow him? No, the crowd may cheer his memory, but in life they abandoned him. They always abandon the one who stands alone. Why? Because survival matters more than truth. People cling to leaders who protect them, not philosophers who scold them. They follow strength, not sincerity, and strength is rarely honest. Here is the paradox. The truth teller hopes to liberate men, but in exposing illusions, he robs them of their comfort. And comfort is more precious to them than freedom. So they crucify him, then later sanctify him, once he can no longer disrupt their peace. This is why you must learn from the ruin of others. Do not admire their courage so much that you imitate their mistakes. Admire their fate enough to avoid it. Consider the modern world, the employee who exposes fraud without alliances. He is fired, blacklisted, silenced. But the one who gathers allies first, who leaks information at the right moment, who controls the story, he survives and perhaps even rises. The difference is not in the truth, it is in the strategy. Or think of relationships. The lover who blurts out every thought, every doubt, every insecurity, he believes he is being real, but his honesty corrodes attraction. Meanwhile, the lover who reveals selectively, who hides weakness until the right moment, who controls the pace of disclosure, he maintains power, desire, and respect. Again, the difference is not honesty versus deceit, but honesty wielded with calculation. This is the lesson. Ruin comes not from truth itself, but from the reckless handling of it. The fire burns not because fire is evil, but because you were foolish enough to grasp it bare-handed. Ask yourself, how many truths have you spoken that weakened you instead of strengthening you? How many times did you speak too soon, without allies, without leverage, without protection? Did your words empower you, or did they arm your enemies? Do not waste the ruins of others. Their downfall is your instruction. Their pain is your manual. And their silence is your opportunity to rise where they fell. But beware, there is another danger. Some admire the ruined truth teller so deeply that they romanticize failure itself. They imagine that to be destroyed for honesty is noble. It is not noble. It is foolish. For what use is your virtue if you are silenced? What use is your truth if it dies with you? The wise do not die for truth. They live to wield it. They know when to conceal, when to distort, when to whisper instead of shout. They endure while the Naïve perish. So when you hear the confessions of a ruined truth teller, do not mourn his fate. Study it. Ask, where did he misstep? Where did he reveal too much? Where did he mistake honesty for strength? And above all, how can you avoid the same end? Remember, this ruin is a teacher, but only for those willing to learn. The rest will repeat the same mistakes and suffer the same punishment. So let me leave you with a final thought. The graveyards of history are filled with men who mistook sincerity for strategy, but the palaces are filled with those who turned even dangerous truths into weapons. The choice is yours. Will you join the ruins of the honest, or the ranks of the survivors? And with this question, we arrive at the next revelation: how the cunning transform even the appearance of ruin into the foundation of greater power. Control is most effective when it is invisible. The hand that moves openly invites resistance, but the hand concealed in shadow directs men as if they move of their own will. People believe they are free when in truth they are guided. They believe they choose when their choices were arranged before them. And the ruler who understands this, who shapes perception, withholds truth, and uses silence as a weapon, commands absolute power without ever seeming to. Ask yourself, would you rather be the one who shouts and is ignored, or the one who whispers and is obeyed? Remember, true mastery lies not in forcing obedience, but in planting the illusion of freedom. That is how you control people without them ever knowing. Now I turn to you. Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe for more strategies drawn from the darker truths of power and psychology, and share this video, so that others may also learn how control is best exercised in silence.